May 2nd, 2023. I'm your host, Brian Cirillo, aka Lex Naturalis, and welcome. It's good to be here again. I hope everyone, if you haven't already, checked out my last broadcast it was a tribute show to my friend Justin Krakow, who has passed away, unfortunately. Um, and so I'm still grieving and mourning over that, but had a chance to repost his the episode we did on my Facebook group chat or group for Amazing Conspiracy Realist channel. If you want to join the group, just go to Facebook and type in Amazing Conspiracy Realist channel in the group section, and you'll join the group, which is different people post stuff, and it's mainly I just post videos that are relevant, my own videos, other people's stuff, quotes, and just random stuff. So yeah, I mean, I do a lot with that, and I really do want to get back into the tarot again and doing readings and stuff. It's just that I need to learn more about that and get more skilled at it, but before I play around with it anymore, because I want to know, how, if I'm doing something, how the effect I'm having by doing it, and I need, I think I just need to be more knowledgeable about doing it, especially for other people. For me, I'm getting better with that, but for doing it for other people is something that I'd rather just make sure I really am trained in that before I do it. So today I just wanted to get into, a little bit of, some of my day-to-day thoughts, just based on my experience and things regarding gender and gender dysphoria and things like that. I want to make it clear that I have studied the satanic epi-eugenics agenda. I understand, that there's the powers that should not be, they want to confuse the genders, they want to confuse sexuality and sexual identity with people, but I think one of the main things to that agenda that we kind of overlook when we're so focused on the feminization and stuff of and masculinization of women, the talking points for this conversation are, they go beyond just the alternative conspiracy research movement. It goes into the, I guess, I don't know what you call it, the Jordan Peterson school, the sort of libertarian, what's been demonized as alt-right school, and it is, so there's that, and I think they put a little bit too much focus on the transgender thing, and I think I'm going to get into what I think about that in a minute, because I mean, I am, technically an LGBTQ person because I'm bisexual, but LGBTQ, the corporate, media owned monstrosity that it is now, I think they're trying to move away from bisexuality as a thing. And I think that, it's the whole media campaign and thing has really damaged, people, I think, in the alt-right and the critics, people that like to joke and make fun of anything transgender and say that it's a sign, just another symbol of the agenda. It's almost like people in this movement and in other movements are using trans people as the symbol for this agenda, and to what degree I haven't really measured it, but I just see it. It's just something I see a lot, and it's not like I'm sitting here offended and oh my god, you shouldn't post that or say how you feel about that. But I just think that the problem with it is that the LGBTQ corporate agenda thing has made it so before a trans person wasn't really that understood, but then had something to say about that and could rectify that with the average person and just talk to them about it. And they weren't trying to say there's no such thing as gender and there's no such thing as biological women, and Like, I just feel like there was more common sense surrounding the issue maybe at like 10 or 20 years ago, at least among people that were involved or were transgender themselves. And Mario West can vouch for me here. She says she knows some people that, are in that frame of mind. And I don't doubt it. Like, it's like it's something that I'm not transgender, but I definitely have like tendencies for that type of thing. And so I get it. And I know it's possible for someone to have those kind of tendencies and still have a healthy life and viewpoint and perspective and stuff. So, I think that that's important to remember. And then a huge part of the agenda is not just the transgender thing aspect of it. It's also the division between men and women. So it's like not even related to that other piece. It's like it's the whole like when you do act when you know that you're a man and you identify as a man because biologically you're a man and biologically you're let's talk about straight men and women. The other thing in the agenda is the wedge that's put between like people that are like in a straight regular men and women, boyfriend girlfriend or marriage, husband wife situation, and the turmoil that comes along with that from just the fact that there's a whole nother issue here that's never looked at, and it's the fact that men, like women and men, don't really understand each other because for some reason, and it's like the perception like just seems to be like off because of the way women are presented to men in the media and in culture and by your own family influence, and then it's the way men are presented to women for the same forces, and then on the whole there's the overall misperception of self on the whole human race level, like the identification with the paradigms and programs that have been put out there by the dark occult, like the materialist, social Darwinistic, view of life, in contrast to the organized religious view of life in the universe. Those two things are supposed to be polar opposites in the but they're used for the same mechanism because they both block you from the real connection and to spirit and source and natural law and the foundational principles behind natural law, and more specifically within the overall school of natural law, like within that understanding as a subset is the understanding of like the terms masculinity and femininity in a spiritual sense as as expressions of consciousness. And that is one of the hardest things that I think I've ever tried to get across to any other human being. And I have not been successful. I mean, unless people already know what I'm talking about, and have the vocabulary to, understand what is meant by masculinity and femininity in context to spirituality and expressions and modes of consciousness. People understand that, then it's not, but if there's no understanding, no foundational understanding of that, the principle of gender as it's understood in the Hermetic tradition, then then you have another set of extremes comes to bear, but it's both of these extremes are born out of the same ignorance. So there's the extreme in the, I guess let's go with the classic, let's say in the right, right, the more, like, for lack of a better term, the more right wing, let's say, ideology. It's not really, that's not the best term, but that's what we're using just to identify this specific group of people that are thinking in this way, is that it's like, when it comes to the transgender thing, it's like there's either like the total misunderstanding, like how could you possibly because there's feel like, a woman in a man's body. Like they can't, like I can imagine how that would be possible. Just because if a man is or a younger boy is just exploring his feminine side, or might like um, identify with a female role model. And it's not to say that they don't, just because they identify with a female role model, that they don't identify with any male ones. It's just that if they do that, then sometimes the influence, I guess, of the ego persona becomes more feminine, and it just becomes like, for me, like it's just like there's like almost like when I'm just going, just my overall, I don't know what the word for it is, it's just like when I'm going about my day, and just even like right now, like as I'm doing anything, there's the awareness that like of how my outer body looks, and that's of a male, and then there's like my inner world of spirit, which feels like, what I end up picturing in my mind is always like, as it's like almost like a double screen type of thing, like a split screen thing, like for, just as an analogy, like it's a split screen reality in which like on one level of reality I'm experiencing this life as a man, and then there's the internal intuition and creativity, and the way like I express my sexuality, and there's that, and then and the just the way I operate in the world. There's like my inner life, my inner being, and that's feminine. There's the masculine aspect too, and we're going to get into that, the masculine aspect of consciousness as well. But there is the feminine aspect of consciousness within me, even though I'm a man biologically. And so when I identify with that part of myself, I know that that's what that is. I can identify with the concept, and the understanding that like, and sometimes like what I was saying just now is that like I go about my day, and the split screen basically is like me operating through life as a man, and then me doing the same exact things only as a woman. And that's just how the screen just looks to me. Like it's just like I'm doing things in life, and then I'm always picturing it like as if I was a woman. How would that look for some reason? And it's not like a conscious thing, it's an unconscious thing, and it's just something that I do. It's just something that's why, like, like I'm so aware of like what, like how my style would be if I wasn't like a woman, that like I just incorporate that style as a guy, and it becomes sort of androgynous, and I do like that because it just kind of feels like. And so it's just something, and it might be a sexual thing, it might be just something that gets me off, I don't know. And I think that's, a lot of people will argue that, and it's like, if it's not hurting anyone else, and I'm aware of it, and I'm not, then it's really no big deal, and it's nobody's business or whatever, I guess you could say. But I'm open about my sexuality, and it's nothing to be ashamed of, really. And it's like, and so that's the thing that we forget. It's like, we need to focus on the psychological issues that men and women have when they're in relationships. That's one of the things we need to focus on if we're going to like deal with the whole, agenda, the gender agenda, you know, and so you got to remember that that's a huge aspect of it too. And that trans people have always been trans people, and it's not like a brand new thing. It's just something that like it was never really that well understood, besides within people like that were involved in it, or were trans probably, and gay and stuff, and then but then like now it's like, without the way they're framing it now is like masculine and femininity always has to do with, it's like they don't think of it as modes of consciousness. They think of it as obvious as and we've all heard it a million times, that they think of it as a societal construct, that, like, and they always go like, oh, just blue is good. They always say blue is masculine for boys and pink is feminine for girls. That's the only real understanding and reference point anyone has for these phrases. And before I really understood what these things meant, I used to just picture like a Barbie aisle and then a toy aisle that had like action figures and like army men and stuff in it. And that's how I picture masculinity and femininity in my mind, and that's why they always, and most people are thinking of something like that, if not that exact thing. Let me tell you, and then so they go, oh, that's society, and all that is like this dark occult reversal program in which like they're taking something like they'll like take the things that are societal constructs like taxes and the medical mafioso and the banking system and the court system and you know political system. They'll say that is like the necessity, and this is the thing that you can't live without, and this is almost like and it's all part of hierarchy, and we're all animals and we're hierarchical animals and this and that, and so that's nature. This structure's like more natural and to us, this domination hierarchy thing, that's us. But then when you talk about masculinity and femininity as being related to the human, oh, that's a societal construct. So they want to just equate these, say this thing that's natural and again expressions of consciousness within the human soul and psyche. There's that, and then there's this other thing. It's like they want that to be the thing that people think of as a societal construct, and then don't go any deeper from there. I've actually even had one like really stupid feminist person, feminazi, say to me like, and other feminists disagreed with her on this, and she was like just off a rocker, and like everyone was just like, wow. But she was convinced. She's just like, oh, I said, you say the word femininity, and she's like, oh, you're confusing the term. You don't know what you're talking about. You see, there's no, it's feminism. It's not femininity. It's feminism. That's the word. Like she just thought like feminism and femininity, like it's just one thing, and her thing, that her super feminism thing is all that there is in regards to, femininity. You mean feminism, she said. I was corrected. I didn't realize. No joke, this happened, and so, but then I get, there's the other side. There's the side of, just a little anecdote from something that happened at work the other day is I was working with this guy, and he's a veteran, and he was saying how like he was watching a YouTube video of another really old veteran working in some hardware store or whatever, and it's like a viral video of this veteran apparently, not hurt like physically harming, the person, but just being kind of like a ignorant dick to a transgender person who was in the hardware store. And my coworker was just laughing, and he was just like, and he was going up to the transgender guy and saying like, or gals, even though I'm doing it, saying like, yeah, he's like, oh, I've seen a woman, you ain't no woman, you're just a mess, I tell you, you're a goddamn mess, and I've been fighting in the war, and I didn't fight in the war so that you, like, this is the stupidest thing that people in the military, like, and military supporters say is like, I didn't fight no war so that you can do blank. So it's like, they fought for our freedom supposedly, which is another ridiculous line of bullshit. And then they go, oh, but I didn't fight for you to do that. Like, I fought for your freedom in every other way. But like, if you're gonna dress like a woman and you're a man, then, or you're gonna identify as a woman, then, oh, you're not free to do that, and I didn't kill for you to do that. So it's like you're dealing with that on the other side of it. So it's like, if we want to criticize the left and all that, that's all well and good. And I now, in the past 6, 7 years, I really do understand why people do, and the flaws on that, and the huge flaws, gaping holes in that side. Um, but at the same time, it's like, the other side is so, like, there's certain people that are not knowledgeable about anything like the occult. They're not even knowledgeable about anything with regards to psychology. They really are just dumb, ignorant hicks, and they don't know anything. They hardly ever travel. I mean, I live in a more rural area now, and and there are certain people who just, like, even in the really small towns that are, you know, very small cities and towns, like, that are around. It's like if there's a few like farm towns around, the farm town folk are just like, so they're so different from the city folk, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they're like, they're mainly their difference is is kind of due to the fact that they just, even though they live like maybe 10, 20, 15 minutes away, they like never go anywhere outside of their town. And so like, yeah. And so it's just my coworker, he just thought this video was so funny with this guy making fun of this transgender person, and just being like, just making him look even dumb, really dumber. It's just so he thought that I would get a kick out of that too, and I was just like, it was kind of annoying. I was trying to get my work done too. I was trying to do something, and the guy was just, so whatever. I mean, that's all. And so yeah, I said to him, I just tried to like, because he was just trying to make sense of the whole thing after that. He's just like, I just don't get like, you know, he's like, I have no problem with transgenders. My son's dating a transgender, and he's even gotten mad at people for like giving his son shit about that. And but then he has his moments where he's just like, oh, but I still don't really get it. I mean, I never felt like that. I guess there's nothing wrong with it, but you wonder if they should if there's like some kind of disorder, or whatever. And so it's just like, well, and then I was just giving him, I was going out on a limb, and I'm like, I really don't want to have this conversation, but I'm just going to say what I think and be honest with the fucking guy, and see what happens. And I said, well, I think it is, it's just that what happens is these guys, they recognize that they have a feminine side, and they kind of think that that's their, they recognize their inner woman, and they kind of identify that as themselves, and that's just how they do it. And I think that's where it comes from, but nobody really tells them that or explains it, so there's just this big misconception out there about it. And he's just like, and before I could even get all that out, he's just like, as soon as I said, inner woman, feminine side, he's just like, no, it doesn't exist. Nope, not in me. No feminine side in me. Not a single one. Not a single whit. No femininity. Not zero. Well, I've seen a lot of femininity from this guy. I've seen a lot of it in the negative expression. I've seen it in this guy, and certainly it's like when he has an issue at work and someone wants to say, hey, buddy, you're doing this wrong. The femininity really comes out like in the negative expression when that happens, and he has to be confronted with something he's done incorrectly. So it's just really funny, you hear these guys like, oh yeah, this whole thing is like, it's like, what have you done with your feminine aspect to yourself? Like, what have you actually done with it? And that's just one of the things we never talk about. It's like, the denigration of the masculine, and now men are feminized. Well, what about, it's like the denigration of both, because what's happening is that like the negative expression is being broadcasted and like put on high for everyone to see, whereas the positive expression of both these archetypes is being like kind of not looked at, and like the light's not shining upon that, and people are in balance on both levels. And so it's like, to focus on one over the other is just not going to work. It's just not going to, and it's going to confuse people even more. And so, yeah, it's just like, it's just a damn shame. Like, before 2016, it's like, I think that like trans and homosexual people and bisexual people like had a chance to really like have a more grounded understanding of where we're at, and be able to explain it to people in a way that made sense. But then the newer generation came on, and then like it became like a fad to be trans, and then or be gay or be bi, and it's like, and you can't even, it's like this new generation just takes over. They didn't learn any of the basic foundational things, and I'm not even saying that my generation knew these things. It's just that like it was just like it, it's like the elite are going out of their way to make sure that you like even if you have a little bit of an inkling of certain knowledge, that they'll take that away and replace it with something that's just not even real, and just have a scientific explanation and an institution to back it up, and then it's just like it's like the younger millennials, the Gen Z. It's like they're the ones who like know more about, like, I know that people my age, I'm 32 and older, are not as familiar with this aspect of like, the changes as in all the genders. And it's like I saw a PDQ at work of it was like trans it was like a pride a bunch of pride merchandise and stuff, rainbow stuff. And in years past, it had mainly just been the rainbow flag and everything, and just, based on gay pride. But then, like, we come in to this year, and then there's all these different flags, and then there's like a heart, there's like a yellow heart with a purple um, circle through it. And I'm pretty sure that means asexual, if I'm not mistaken. And it's overwhelming information, especially from on a small little stack-based PDQ. People are going to be like looking at all this like information at one time, and like it's just they, them, and all this. And like that's one thing that really does irk me is just the they, them thing. I just don't understand it. Like I just don't like, and it's like if people can do, it's like just because I don't understand doesn't mean someone should, if they really understand it deep within themselves, they want to do it. Like it's like I'm not gonna say like you shouldn't, like you don't do it, do whatever you want. Freedom of expression, freedom of movement, freedom of of course, natural law. If you're not hurting anyone else, go for it. Like it's like, but at the same time, I'm just trying to from a factual, spiritual, metaphysical, philosophical inquiry, I'm just like wondering, like, why the they them thing is it they them because you recognize maybe that there's a masculine and feminine within you, and you're kind of, or a male and female dynamic happening within you, psychically and spiritually and psychologically, and you recognize that, and you're calling they them as in the masculine and feminine within you. That's the guy girl that you are, or the girl guy. And so you're just saying them as in them. But I don't think they're really doing that because they don't want gender to be even in play at all. So they can't say to themselves, oh, the inner guy, the inner girl, the inner feminine, masculine, the inner polarity. So they can't even say that. So what are they actually saying that they are internally to themselves? Like, I mean, I think it's like just that we're become so collectivized that like they have no internal self, and so they're just, it's all groupthink, and it's all just I just don't. And it's just like for me to go up to a woman and say, or for her to say like and for me to refer to them as she, and for them to, it's like, oh, it's like, oh, she did this really cool thing, she really did a great job on that thing, whatever. You refer to someone as she in a positive, negative, or whatever light, and they go and they just turn around and they say, please don't do that. It's almost just like, so she, her, girl, woman, like feminine, like, so who is the real misogynist here if all of those words are now bad words? But you can't ask them the question because then they're already in reactive mode. And then they're already pointing the finger at you and saying that you're the bigot, you're the transphobe, you're the supporter of people that are unwholesome. And it's just a mind fog, and it hurts me as a bisexual person, because it's like I can't get anywhere with people, even when I'm trying to just unwind and just like have a good time with somebody that I meet, that I have a little bit of a connection with. It'll happen with guys a lot, like where it's just like, look, they'll say anything to get their foot in the door, and then it always turns out that like, wait a second, like the things that I think would turn them on are not turning them on so much, and they're just, but other things about me are, so that's getting them off. But then like the things that I try to do that I think are extra special fun and like going to be fun to turn them on with, they're just like, oh no, I don't want that, and it's usually something that's more feminine of an expression, and they want. So for example, it's like I had a really cute outfit I was gonna wear for a guy on the date, or just hanging out and messing around, and just wanted to do like a little strip tease for him and wear something provocative and sexy, and just kind of be in my, like, let my inner woman like take over for a second and just express it in a way that, like, I know, like, I can be influenced by other women's like sexiness and essence and stuff, and just use that in my sexual experience with men. And to me that makes sense as like a bisexual dude who's into dudes. And so, but when you're doing it, when you I guess when you're messing around with guys who are just not bisexual and just purely gay, then it's like, so he'll see, I'd said like I was gonna do all that stuff, and he was just like, oh, can you wear your dirty socks from work, like the socks you worked in? I'd rather you do that, and don't shower when you get home either. I want to smell your musk. And at that point, I was just so turned off, and then I was like bummed out, and I was like, "So wait, like all that other stuff that I talked about that you seem like you were into, you're really not?" And he's just like, "Oh yeah, to be honest, not really, but like I love musky smelling men who just got home from work." And I was like, "Wait, aren't you supposed to be the top? Like I don't know what the fuck's going on right now. There's no top in this world. It's like there is top and bottom to in there. It's to get their foot in the door, but then it's like at the end of the day, they just want to. There's no like there can't be any masculine or feminine roles, so it's like they can't like actually perform like sexually without doing something really weird. And like it wasn't that was even the only weird thing that the guy had mentioned. It wasn't like super like bad stuff. It was just like stuff that was like, some stuff was kinky and I was into it, and then other stuff was just like dealing with bodily fluids, and yeah, pretty gross. And a lot of people are into gross shit, even hot girls and or pretty girls who you think, oh, this like someone that you might like want, like well, for me personally, I like to keep it casual with guys, and then with a girl I'd like to have more romantic feelings for and want to actually have a real relationship like with, like, it goes beyond just sexual fuck buddy stuff. And so even with that, like in that pursuit, I find that it's like I'm just not like, it's not even about kinky, it's about like gross, like, and it's not sexy, the things that certain people are into, and sometimes it doesn't even have anything to do with sex at all. um I know one guy who said that he had a threesome with a girl, and then eventually she started beating the shit out of him. And he thought she was just fooling around and being kinky, and then the next minute she just got a bunch of other people to start jumping him here and there, and then she just got off on it, and like, so obviously, like like, I want to sound like Mr. Christian preacher man on the side of the streets, but the depravity has gotten out of control. Like, it's just people are just depraved now, and it's like losing that psychic baseline for like feminine and masculine expression and through sexuality, whether it be, whatever your orientation is. It's like now it's lost on all levels, on all orientations, and yeah, so the people that do understand it out there, even like if they're not super awake, if they still have a little bit of that, libido, and that like, kind of like ability to like alchemize those two energies in sexuality. Sorry, it's just really cold in my apartment. Like it's like an ice box in here, and my landlord does keep it cold because to save money, and it's fucking May, and it's upstate New York, and it really shouldn't be so cold right now, but it is. So yeah, I just think that like again, I can't reiterate enough. It's just this movement itself is like, it's a misunderstanding on top of another misunderstanding, and it's just like, you have to remember that like the most feminized men are like the order followers of the world, and I've known them, and it's just like I know people who had brief stints in the military who are very different people now. not necessarily more moral people, but just not as gung ho about military stuff and just done other things with their lives and have other hobbies, thank God, and other interests. And so, but they're not secure, and they're men that are a lot older than me that I'm thinking of. Like they're not secure in themselves as people. Even people that I know of that are like, "Oh, my father is a military," and then you meet the guy and it's like, it's not like he's like a stern, like secure, like, authentic masculine man. He's more just they're more just kind of a lot of times when pressed, it's like they can't. Their biggest thing is it's probably from PTSD too, but like I it's they can't be away from other people, or it's like they can't like they're more like Mark Passio talks about like, there's just two types of people in the world, like the types that want to be left alone and the type of people that never leave you alone. And these types of people that I've met who were previously in the military like decades ago, it's just like they it's just I think that the trauma that they experience, it may make it so they can't. It's like they're not they haven't fully matured, like they can't even like. It's like these particular individuals I'm thinking of who are become acquaintances. um it's like it's amazing that like it's just like they'll stand by themselves, they'll feel left out, and like you try to include them in things, and they'll be included, but then if people are not talking about what they want to talk about or doing what they want to do, they'll get like all moody and think that nobody's cool, but then realize that they don't have any other friends and get like all butthurt about that. And it's just like, even people that it's coworkers who are like this, it's like they'll want to have a side conversation having something nothing to do with work, and like they'll want to, and then like, when you go to actually start continuing with the job, they are just like they have like this look on their face like, you know their puppy just got hit by a car. They're just like, oh, it's like you're walking away. It's like, and like they need to, like they can't, they have no like it's like they need to be told what to do. Like they have, like they go into the job and they, instead of just like looking around at things and just getting into something and knowing and having the training and skills to know just what needs to get done and doing it, they are just waiting around for direction, and so it's like, or this is the message more for the alternative conspiracy, natural law people. It's just, remember that these are the feminized people. These are, you know, you know, the whipped husband, the hall monitor, the traffic cop, the mall cop, these yes men and these sidekicks and these, just talentless hacks and people who have like no real substance, and like, even the idea that like it's all worthless and it's all, a big life's a bitch and then you die, and like the whole materialistic paradigm, like breeds a sort of negative expression of femininity, and then it wants to delete and destroy the positive expression of it and say that it was never real, or even do it in a subconscious way like they do in the LGBTQ thing. It's like the subconscious thing where it's like woman is a dirty word, and they them, and all these other identifications and stuff that are not. And it's like even, well, man's been a dirty word for a long time, but now it's like they don't want to. And then like it's like weird because then they'll say like when they are just talking about biological women, they'll just be, they will talk about someone like that they want to prop up, or like usually like a Casio Cortez or whatever, like powerful woman. Like the only time they'll even acknowledge biological women as being, of value is when it's someone involved in politics. And it's just, and I remember like all these feminists were like showing that picture of that hideous congresswoman, like when she died, just saying, all this like stuff about how great she was and how she did so much for women. When it's like another thing with the whole feminist thing was just like it wasn't empowering women to be authentic um, individuals I mean in some ways it was but like a lot of it was centered around voting. It's like, well, now you can vote and now you can pay taxes just like men. Ugh. All right, well, that's, who that just serves the agenda. They just want you to, that's more people paying into the death cult system and believing in the false left right paradigm, believing that a vote for a leader or dictator is going to solve anything. And it's just like it's now women are indoctrinated into that belief. Like that's not going to help. It's not going to help. And then so they end up falling. It's like it's almost like it's really sickening, and it's just that I wish that this would change, like this trend I see among the female population of just like this like fawning over like people that are in immoral professions, politicians and police and military, and sometimes it's like the king and queen, and it's like all this stuff in the tabloids. It's like, oh my god, the queen and Prince Charles and blah blah blah. It's like, shut the fuck up. Like this is bullshit. Like these people are not like people worth you know emulating or like being an example. Again, it's the propping up of a negative expression of masculinity and femininity, and people that are in those negative expressions of being, the important person. It even happens in rock and roll, and like that's my soft spot where I'm loath to admit it. And I recognize that it's music, it's entertainment, and that on one level, it's just like if I was into fishing or anything, it's like on one level, it's like if you sat me down with MGK and Megan Fox, like if I wasn't into rock and roll, I would maybe say, oh well, there's an example of people that are being propped up that are in the negative expression of these two things. And I'm sure people have all kinds of examples of how they are and stuff. But since they're two people that I kind of like because I like the stuff that I like the movies that Megan was in, I like some of MGK's music, then I kind of have a soft spot for it. But I don't deny that that could also be being that I had that soft spot, there's something in that I'm not seeing within rock and roll, and then there's the whole music thing that's in connection with intelligence communities being involved in it. But music isn't a conspiracy. It's just that the movements, can get like if the music is powerful, since the music is powerful and really it can be used as a tool for negative agendas and stuff. And so it's like that's I was saying to someone the other day, they're like, oh, is there a 27 Club conspiracy, like, or with all the 27 Club rock stars that like died, is there like a conspiracy, or did the aliens come down and take them away, did they vanish into the flat earth, what is it, Brian, what's the big conspiracy behind 27? Because his kid just turned 27 and he was trying to ask me like what it is, and I was like, I don't think it's any of those things. I think that it was more just that these people were, promoting certain ideas, and they were just a certain type of person that, was going to be too much of a positive influence on the public mind, and that wasn't going to be good for the system, man. Because, I had to say the system because, I have to tailor to my audience, when I'm talking to people sometimes. So if I said, the system doesn't want them to say it, dude, that's all it was. And that was a really great way of putting it for this guy, because he was just like, oh yeah, oh yeah, of course. Oh, that makes so much sense, man. Oh. So yeah, I mean, you can get through to people. You just have to, sometimes you used to speak their language but still give them the right idea. And so, I just worry. My biggest fear personally is that, and it's something I have to face, not be in that mode, but fear is, just the idea, when I am attracted to someone and want to get in a relationship, meet someone, it's like I can already identify the things that are going to be, that are going to come up, that are going to be like difficult conversations to have, like, and that, but I have to remember that that's not just happening because I'm more into the occult and awake and can identify certain agendas, it is a unique type of problem that's going to come up, like, and a unique type of argument and disagreement that comes up in the relationship with that type of situation. But in any relationship, there's going to be disagreements and things to work through. So it's like, and I think that's what you have to remember too. It's like, it's not like you shouldn't go out there and meet people and date and stuff, and that can be really fun, and especially once you get the knack for it, like there is a skill to it, and I used to think like, oh man, dating sucks because you got to be fake. The girls don't like you unless you're fake. You go up to them and you say some fake stuff, you say some corny joke, and they think you're the greatest. And then but then if you be yourself, you try to promote your music or your ideas, then they just walk away and act like you're a piece of shit, and that's because and I say, oh, that's because of the agenda, and that's because they're superficial and everything. But there's also an act in dating where you don't the reason there's a strategic reason why you wouldn't like divulge too much in the beginning is because you just want the person to like get to know you on just a basic level first. Like it's not about never showing them who you are. It's about like first you meet me and this is the intro to me, and I want to at least show you want to show people sometimes when you first meet them, whoever they are, that like it's not that that you're like you can be funny, that you can let loose, that you're not always serious, and that you're not always so you go up to and you try to relate to them and stuff. If you want, so this is like for a man who's really attracted to a woman and wants to go about owning that attraction in the right way. So you own the attraction, you don't own them, you just own the attraction. So you just go like so because like we have the like I know I have the desire if a beautiful woman walks in the room, like I'm just like okay, like I wish there was like some way I could just be like wow, like you really made my day, because it makes me feel really like happy, like really happy to see you, just because you look so great, and it was just something that picked me up in the moment. It wasn't even, and then I'm sure all kinds of women from all different beliefs and ideas will have a problem with me maybe saying that, and it's like, oh, is that all we're good for? Is you being happy because we look good? It's like, yeah, I didn't say that, and I didn't imply that, and I don't think that. Like I don't even think that like when you appreciate beauty, like I don't want to live in a world where there isn't like a beautiful woman, or a vista, a mountaintop, like a great piece of music, a great piece of art, or whatever. Like all those things are not objects. They're all aspects of like the best parts of just life, like the juiciest parts of life and the experience that we're having. And it's not like objects, it's like it's experiential, like knowledge all within all those things, the female, and man's relation to it, like that's not like all objectifying it, and even like women's fashion and beauty and things like that. It's like these things are artistic expressions. They're not like fucking. It's not like some stupid like this. It's not like a sex toy is an object, yeah, and a sex doll is an object. But it's tools for sexual arousal is what they are. But like it's like this is a different thing. It's like not just about being aroused sexually, and like even that's what that does. It's like it's still an amazing alchemical process that's happening, and it's not purely physical. Again, this materialist paradigm is getting people just like so locked in the material that it's like they don't even appreciate like what something means like behind like the physical expression, and they don't even really it's like they just think back to bio class and just think, oh, the sexual organ system, and you're worshiping that, and it's just like, bro, like it's just there's a whole nother level to it. It's just like that's why it's just funny, sometimes you see like like in Coming to America, there's that guy Randy Watson who's like the singer, in the beginning, during the beauty pageant, and he's saying like, it's like, when I look at these beautiful women, I know that there's a God, like I know that like there's a higher force out there, and so people like roll their eyes even in the movie when he said shit like that. But like it's true, like when you admire a beautiful woman, for example, it's like that it's a connection to the divine, and it's like you could, and I think women don't even realize it. I mean, I mean, there's a really pretty girl that I work with, and she has a husband, and I'm not, we're totally, I keep it professional, and I, don't make any passes or do anything, and, say anything weird, but I'm very friendly, and I'm also just very like myself around her, and I will just be funny and just try to make her laugh and make a little, not trying to make her laugh. I just do it naturally. I just, eventually when you are, when you offer the same rapport and sunny disposition with everyone, but still be yourself and don't take anyone's bullshit, then, like they respect you, and then you could be yourself around anybody, anytime. And it's just, you're coming at the situation as you, your authentic self. And so, but anyway, she's a really pretty girl. And I don't need to have a marry her. I don't need to have sex with her. I don't need to, make a pass or say something really perverted or anything. That's not going to do anything for me. That's not going to do anything for her. If and so in this situation, at least, because she's married, and she's probably not interested in me that way, and I'm not really interested in finding out if she is. The whole point is, if I'm having a shitty day, or I'm thinking about something really dark and doom and gloom and happening in the world, or anything that's bumming me out, or just negative, at least there's, and then if she comes around the corner and she's looking fine, well then, it's like, it's not a distraction, but it's just like, well, thank God for at least this. If there's nothing good in this day, and in this, and maybe in this life, if I'm feeling that way in the moment, if there's nothing good at all, it's at least, her beauty is something that it's never gonna, it's just, it's not like someone at that level of beauty is just, it's never gonna be like a bummer. It's never gonna be like, oh, a drag. It's just like, especially when you don't know them. It's like, I mean, I understand. I don't want to use the wrong, to people take it the wrong way. I mean, because obviously we know that beauty can be used, to fool people, to trick people, right? It's not. But I'm just saying, like, if you just sit and appreciate it for what it is, without wanting to possess it, then then you can really appreciate it. Then you really know what it is, and then you really have a connection to it. And I don't see that people aren't doing that, and then they want to just, and so if they're not doing it, or if, like, for a straight woman, maybe it's like they're so attracted to the opposite sex that it's not like even registering any, that, like, maybe the beauty, like they don't like, they only see, like, for what, because of their like that, they're so heterosexually minded. Nothing wrong with that either. It's just, but it just might be that they just have no, it's just attraction to women. It's like the thing with gay men. Like, it's really true. Like, it's that really no attraction to women at all somehow. Really no attraction to women at all somehow, coming from straight women. And so it's like, if they don't see the beauty in themselves, then, like, it's like you valuing their beauty is just going to be a confusing, strange thing. And it's just kind of like the guy who was valuing my dirty socks from at work. It's, if they're just, if it's if in my mind it's dirty socks, and in his mind that's his treasure, that's his gold. That's really weird. But and I think his, that thing is weirder than me, admiring a beautiful woman. But nonetheless, to them, if they don't see women as beautiful or attractive or whatever it is, and they're women themselves, and then they look at themselves constantly and are constantly like picking and poking at it, and it's like self-conscious about how they look because they just think they're ugly. When I think some of the most beautiful girls that I've known have maybe even implied that they're ugly or something like that at times. And I don't know if they really believe it, or then people will say the opposite, that it's like, oh, they know how beautiful they are, they're just fucking with you, and they want to take from you, and they want to fuck with you. And it's like, maybe people have so many negative things to say about, you know, um, even saying beautiful women. Like, as soon as you even say it, it's always, what about women that aren't so beautiful, as you say? Well, I mean, I'm talking about ones that are, and it's not saying that there's no value to women, like, and that looks is such a big deal. And it's like someone, and people, beauty is relatively objective, but there is someone for everyone still. It's still going to be the case. I mean, right? Because people can, even if it's a gross thing, like, it's sometimes people can attach like sexual feelings and attraction to. I mean, they could hypnotize themselves sexually to, get turned on by anything. That's what fetishes are, kind of. Anything but sex turns me on, almost sometimes. It's, depending on what it is. And so, but when it comes to even saying a beautiful woman walked in the room, and then it becomes just like, oh, what was so great about her? So you'll have different opinions about it. You'll have women who are jealous who will just say, she's trash, or whatever. She's something about her negative, and then or she's a slut. And it's just like, oh, and then like some guy who really, he might want to fuck her, but he's like, haha, she gets around. I'm gonna use her. Yeah. And then you have the guy who can't get any girls, and I've had these run into these types who are always just like, oh, she's plastic, she's fake. Don't you want a girl who's got a true heart and a true soul? And it's just like how, like it's like everyone is just it's one human being who's just attractive, and you don't know anything about them. All you know is there she is. She looks great. She's got cool style, and she has a great vibe and a great smile, and she's really hot, and that's all we really know about her. Then you have the opinions forming, and then the negative opinions. And so, let's say you're a hot, moral girl who's got the right, idea about things. Perceptions are aligned with reality. She's not, getting falling for the mind control as frequently as she is coming into the truth. Let's say you have someone like that, but they're not super confident in themselves yet because all these things are kind of floating around their mind and they're not really quite sure, and they're still asking questions. And someone says to them, like, you got to really think about what other people think of you. You got to realize that like they see things that you can't see about yourself, and you got to recognize that, lady. I always see like beautiful women being like just people in their faces, like telling them you gotta and you should and so someone says that to her, like, oh, you got, and that's a valid principle, and stuff like that. But someone says that, and then, but you see, that's a valid principle. Like, you should, look at how other people view you, just to see things that you can't see about yourself. That can work, and depend in certain aspects of life. But also you have to remember that with that, you have to take that with a grain of, like, their perception with a grain of salt, and yours of yourself, because they are also living in a perception deception reality, and so they are seeing everything from a skewed lens, so they see you through a skewed lens as well. And so, but let's say she has the right intentions, and is on the right track in life, and is moving towards becoming a more authentic person. um, and then you have the reaction to her physical beauty, and it's a negative on the whole. It's a mainly negative reaction. And if it is a positive reaction, it's coming from someone who is not she's not interested in, or is if it's positive, it's perverted, and that's negative. So it's like all she's getting is negative reactions from jealous people, and then this perverted horde, just inundating her with messages, and advances and things. And then you have someone that's like trying to. And so the way that you can break through that with women especially is just, there's the negative envious people, who will try to bring her down, and then there's the people that want a piece of her sexually, and then so it's like, and they'll go about it the wrong way, or they'll go about it in a way where they start off doing some of the right things to get her interest, and but then they end up fucking it up, and then it becomes her fault, and then she's a bitch, and then, or it's like, what happens is, it's like when people meet, it's not always like they commit right away. It's like you meet someone, and you go on a date with them, you go on a date with another person, you are not in a committed relationship yet, and so you're trying to decide who is, a lot of times I'm sure this happens with women because they get a lot of attention, they have a lot of choices. And so it's like they can decide, okay, like, hung out with this guy, hung out with this guy, hung out with this guy, and let's like, out of all the guys, it's like, which one would I actually see as a boyfriend? Like, I think everyone should, guys and girls and trans, we should all be able to engage in that process, and be able to meet people that are of our type, and be able to
see, okay, now they're my type in this in a lot of ways, but then there's this X factor here, and there's this, and then there's, okay, they're a 10, but then like there's this aspect of their personality that I just can't stand, and I know it's not gonna it's gonna be an issue, and it's gonna be something difficult, and I don't know if I'm up for a challenge, but I don't know if that's really worth it, and so that's like the process you need to go through, and nobody's getting the chance to do that, because nobody's ever taught to do that. And then if you try to explain it when like so late in life for people, nobody wants psychology. Like it's like Young's right. It's just like they'll send any psychological knowledge that you put on the table, they'll send it back like it's a cold bowl of soup. Unless it's behavioral, unless it has to do with some type of arcane like Darwinian idea, or maybe cognitive behavioral therapy is sort of something that people, even if you don't call it that, and you talk about the principles of it, in relation to someone's addiction, maybe then people will kind of say, give psychology a little bit of of credit, for a second. But like for the on the whole, psychology doesn't factor in. Only our past as apes and then caveman. That's the only thing that factors in, even for modern people when they're talking about life, when they're talking about human dynamics, relationship dynamics. They don't talk about anything for the main. It's just it always goes back to that hierarchical reptilian brain, and so that's my 2 cents on it anyway. And I hope you enjoyed the discussion. Um, and I will continue to use this channel as a platform to whenever I do have a good idea to express, I'll just express it, and then that'll be that. I like doing the live format. You know, um, when I do it, and I have a really, and I'm it's just like I need to do it when I have the idea really developed and like in my own mind and like able to express that with other people. And I think today I did a good job of that. And as I was going through, I didn't feel like I was losing my train of thought. I think that the points were connecting a little bit better, and I have been practicing. So you do practice the speaking and on camera, and you do get better at it. And so thank you to all of you who are doing the great work. And I just want people to remember that, like, the satanic epigenetics is more than just gender bending, confusing genders through transsexuality and stuff. It's not so much, and a lot of it has to do with just dynamics within the regular platonic relationship between men and women, and certainly the trans and the LGBTQ the way it is now, it's been taken, see what they're doing. It doesn't help people that are trans either. It's just like it's not helping. I really feel bad for like people that are trans who are of the older generation, not like super older, but like just a few generations older than the nutballs that came around in 2016 up until now. It's like something they came out of nowhere and they were so ignorant, and just it seems like such an operation of just like the children of the dark occult have just been sent out to just cause mass confusion is really what I think is going on. And so then you have them showing up everywhere, turning up everywhere where they weren't turning up before, and then mixing things up and ruining it. And then a whole new generation learns from these people who are out there, purposely, messing up the whole understanding, and they're fragmenting the understanding of natural law, and the hermetic principles is what's happening. It's just being fragmented in a million different pieces, and the new generation is coming up through the institutions that already had a dark occult agenda, but now we're seeing a new phase of it where it's like way more intense, and then there's the younger generation of dark occultists that are doing their new thing, and it's like it's so their new way of the old mind control program. It's just kind of a new just a new sheen, a new color has been added, and they're kind of turning up. They're turning up at in music communities and things like and they all kind of went away after Trump. It's like they turn up and they cause a big stir, and And then it's like now it's like things have kind of settled in the music community. It's not so divisive, and it's not so thank God, for the COVID mandates are all gone. But I haven't forgotten, like, the venues and the promoters and the people that were going along with those agendas. And it's just like, but it's like it's never brought up, and even when they were trying to push those agendas at shows, it wasn't working, and they felt too ashamed to say anything to anybody as far as bands and fans, and even the fans that didn't want to cooperate were like too ashamed to say why they didn't. So it was just an unspoken, like, yeah, we really don't like this, actually, this masking thing, but we don't want to be conservatives. We don't want to be like, Sean Hannity. So we're just going to say nothing and act like we're still cooperating when we're not, because it's just not fun. Because you can't. What was funny about the madness of the left in the 2016 to 2020 era is just what was so funny about it is, like, you knew that, like, a lot of the, you'd worry for a second. You'd think, like, oh, they're changing the narrative, they're changing the script, like they're going to confuse the hell out of everybody. But then at the end of the day, they have no. And I know these people. I know millennials, and I know people that are of this socialist persuasion, and still, like, don't even realize that, like, you know that they're being lame and like submitting to authority. They think of it like as like they're being progressive, and like, understanding the science is like the law and the truth, and the science community and the science and like wherever there's science and being mentioned in any publication anywhere, just the word itself, on a mainstream publication, it'll just suck them right in, and they'll think they have the truth, and they are convinced, and their education tells them otherwise, and whatever, and so they are just so convinced. And anyway, I'm still going on when I meant to be closing out. I think I got my main points across, and I'll just reiterate again that I think the foundational knowledge about masculinity and femininity as expressions of consciousness, without that understanding in people, they're totally lost. And it doesn't matter what your gender expression is or orientation is. There's going to be a loss and a misunderstanding that was already there that's now gotten worse. And so I want to try to rectify it as best I can. And before I go, I will say that, yeah, it's been a disappointment to just kind of see that even in the truth community, I feel like when trans things are discussed, there seems to be a lack of mention of, like, the fact that the femininity is also being suppressed, and that it's not so much like every trans person's fault. I mean, it's just, and that there's a positive way of expressing that if someone chooses to do so. And let's just keep in mind that, like, it's everyone's right to dress how they want. It's part of their bodily autonomy, and express how they want. And if you choose to, if you can recognize your inner feminine and you choose to make that your identity, for the rest, as a voluntary choice and a change in what you were previously, then it's called just being trans. It's a transgender person. And it's and I just, even, you would just think, like, they would say, oh, I used to be a man. What happened to saying, like, oh, I was a man, I used to be Donald, now I'm Donna. They can't do that anymore. They don't do that anymore. They're just in denial totally about their whole past, their whole history, their whole life. It's just like, it's like, do you even, like, know why it's like you decided to do that? Or, like, it's just because, is it like a big protest, because they think, like, oh, well, men are like the cause of all the ills in the world, so, like, if I'm not a man, then I'm a better person. I think that could be partially, like, the new motivation for people that are trans, and the new, you know wave of it. And it's just insulting, to me, and kind of, it's just, I miss the old wave. But I still love trans people that I've met, like who even I always I'm afraid to ask, because it's like I can meet someone, man, woman, trans, and we could connect on so many things and just hit it off, and I feel like they have a great vibe and aura, and it's just like they're so cool in so many ways, and if only they had the foundational knowledge, it wasn't given to them, and so they have all this potential and energy and drive, and the spirituality is still within them. It's just not something that they consciously verbalize. But it's still vibrancy and drivenness, and just free expression, and also just incorporating like their own technical know-how with their artistic expression. Like my bass player, the new bass player at DCP, I'm proud to say, is we went from having a guy who was homophobic, like for real, and it was just like he just hated anything, related to the feminine. And then when it came to girls, it was always just like kind of the incel behavior of just like, oh, they'll never give me the time of day, and I do nice things for them, and they just don't care. And it's like you go out of the way, you do something nice for the girl that you like, and then she doesn't date someone else because you baked her cupcakes, but then she don't really care. She's like, oh, thanks for the cupcakes, and then moves on. And they get all, you got all butthurt about that. I don't want to talk shit about too much about people on the show. It's just that we have a bass player, and we had someone who was for real, like just someone, you would even say like, when gay people act gay in front of me, like we saw a gay guy at a restaurant or whatever, and he just says, I wish they didn't have to act that way. It makes me uncomfortable. It's just like, I don't know how much the guy's acting. I really don't. I think he's just flamboyant, and has developed his personality over a span of decades, and that's at this point, that's who the fuck the guy is. That's who you're meeting. That's who's coming to the table to take the order. I mean, there are people like this in the world, but a small town, small mind, and it's just, oh, they're making me uncomfortable. And so now we have a trans woman in our band. She's a great bassist, and she's a great friend, and she's really just loves punk rock music. And it's like I don't have to, you're talking about something like COINTELPRO, you don't have to explain it to her. She knows what that is, and she's aware. She has her cosmology and perception of the powers that be and the system, and the way it is. It's different than mine, and there are obviously things that I've discussed like on the show, that where I think the influence is there with, I think that I've even explained to her that it's like my divergence from LGBTQ is a spiritual one, because they're not coming at it from a spiritual perspective. They're coming at it from more of a materialist atheist perspective, and she also shares that perspective of materialist atheist. And I'm saying, like, so I'm bisexual, and so she understands that I have a lot of the same kind of experiences, and we have similarities with just the fact that she's trans, I'm bisexual. It's kind of a similar sexual, there's a little bit of overlap with that orientation, and so we can discuss that. But I've discussed with her that like my spiritual understandings clash with the way things are perceived by a lot of people in LGBTQ, and I think it was a pleasant conversation. She's not a emotionally reactive person, and so it's like I accept them, and it's not hard. It's not hard to accept people, and I think acceptance is about of people's differences is not about pretending that the difference isn't there. It's about like talking to that person, and just saying like that you're not, this is kind of a different divergent thing that you're doing. It's kind of an alternative thing. We all know what that is about. And so you ask them, and you say like, what is your, how did you get to this point in your life? And it's, you could be closed-minded and say like, oh, these transgender people, it's because they've been malnourished, and they're confused, and they've just been inundated with information, and like what I was saying is like the no foundation of masculine femininity is causing people to be confused. And then so you all in the alt movements, and not all of them people, but you know what I mean, it's like that. So as soon as the foundational knowledge of masculinity and femininity is not there, your mind immediately goes to you
You, tranny. That's you. You're the one that's confused about that. And it's like not always the case. You know, people have all their unique experiences and their own reasons for it, and it's just like they don't even. And sometimes it's just like it's true, like what they say, and they just say like I've always just felt like a woman. I've always identified with things that are more feminine, and the thing is, so do gay guys. Gay guys do it too, and it's like almost like it's not a disease. It's just something that they just it's just like I like it, but it's just like I know I'm a man, so I'm just taking some things, and it's really androgyny, like with homosexuality and transsexuality. It's androgyny, and it's expressions of it, and it's and you know, for gay guys who are full on gay, like I after meeting them, hanging out with them, talking to them, you know, they really are like attracted to men in a similar way that I guess women are attracted to men. Whereas my attraction is different, where I'm attracted to the essence of people. Obviously, I'm attracted to physical. I'm not gonna say, like, "Oh, I'm not attracted." Physical bodies don't. I don't notice that. Like, I'm all spiritual, so yeah. But like, I could just see where with someone who's healthy and vibrant, like I don't think like, oh, they have good genes. They're a good genes person. I'm just like, well, you know, they have you know, a charisma, a vibe, and like, you know, sexy is just sexy, and it's out there, and it's an expression, and then there's a lot of artistic stuff that can go along with it, and just like music, and just like literature, and any form of expression, you'll have, you know, dark occult forces getting in there and messing around and flipping the tables around, and turning things upside down, and so that's why it's important to navigate through the realm, but then not shun whole experiences of things in the world, you know. So thank you all, and everyone have a good night.